Welcome to Thinking is Contagious. The Afghanistan disaster continues. Um, People getting beaten, people being precluded from leaving, people's lives being threatened, women, children, everyone across the board. And we still have the lying of Biden coming out saying how everything's under control. No, it's not. His own people are saying it's not. It's a disaster. I think it's laughable that he has on a couple of occasions said that this is a deal that was worked out by Trump. There's nothing I can do about it. My hands were tied. In the first 2 weeks of his administration, he undid dozens of Trump executive orders. He has dismantled almost every single executive order or mandate that Donald Trump put in place. That has been his prerogative over the first 90 days, and he has not hidden that. He has acknowledged that that's been what his intent is, because obviously that's what the left, who pulls his strings, the people who hold him ransom, have told him he must do. So that's what he's done, okay? He continues to lie. He continues to say that it was a Trump deal. Trump would never, okay, have left the civilians there before pulling the military. The military would not have left till the civilians were gone. The equipment that has been left there, the trillions, at least hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars of military infrastructure, expertise, hardware, software that was created when Trump's mandate was to reinvigorate and make America's armed forces the greatest in the world, the most technologically advanced armed forces in the world, spent trillions of taxpayer dollars to achieve that. We have left that behind knowingly, intact. And guess who has that now? The Chinese and the Russians. So all those trillions of US taxpayer dollars used to create this advanced technology is now in hands of the Chinese and the Russians and the Middle Eastern terrorist organizations, who now have access to this and will easily tear it apart, decipher it, ascertain how it's made, how it's built, and duplicate, copy. And not only that, make it much easier to hack into our existing systems. This is treason. Joe Biden is guilty of treason. Mark Milley is guilty of treason. Kamala Harris is showing you what we've said all along. Total incompetent. She is like a deer in the headlights. She is running for the hills. Now she says she's going to Vietnam. She is running for the hills because she knows that she has no clue of what to do. She is lost, and we all know it. She's not competent. She's not qualified. You put the resume of Kamala Harris on the desk of any president, anyone aspiring to be president. You put that on and say, this is one of the candidates for the vice president, they would have laughed at you. Her only qualification should have been a picture, a woman of color. That's her only qualification. Not one of her qualifications. The only qualification is a woman of color. She is a total disaster. And guess what? Even the left is beginning to realize at this point, with Article 25 looming, that they're saying, holy crap, we don't even have a backup quarterback in here, because there's no way. She is showing, and no pun intended, her true colors here. She is showing that she can't handle this, that she's an incompetent. And then we have Joe Biden bumbling, stumbling, and lying and saying Trump did this. I couldn't turn back the Trump deal. A lie. All of it is a lie. Mark Milley, maybe you should have spent a little bit more time studying the situation in Afghanistan instead of studying white privilege, like you said, the 1619 Project, about trying to ingratiate yourself to the liberal left, knowing that your only path of progress to continue to ascend the quote-unquote corporate ladder of the United States military is through votes, political votes, and kissing ass so you could get those political votes. You, sir, are a fraud. You're a phony. And if you look at Mark Milley's career, again, much like Joe Biden, who Robert Gates said is wrong all the time on foreign affairs and mostly everything else as well, Mark Milley, wrong on everything. Remember when he put in the program against the recommendations of all his staff, basically having the military testing through CrossFit, doing CrossFit basically. I forget the name of the program. That was quickly scrapped. Okay? He spent millions and millions and millions of dollars training in Afghanistan, and what is left? Nothing. All those soldiers, the majority of those soldiers, 40 or 50% of the soldiers, once the United States paycheck stopped coming in, they left. Guess who they were? Guess who they trained? Guess who Milley trained? The terrorist. We were paying on taxpayer dollars. We have paid for terrorists to be trained, our military, United States military facilities. We have now handed over to them all our hardware and software, as well as physical equipment, military equipment, valuable, that Trump devoted trillions of U.S. taxpayer dollars to develop for the protection of this country. We have just handed that over to our enemy. All of you who think that you are so enlightened and know so much and speak down so much to the Trump supporters and to the conservative section of this country, you have created a disaster that could very well cost millions and millions of lives across the world, and will certainly lead to far more terrorism against the United States. And at this moment, what you profess you're so concerned about, minorities, women, children, they are being tortured. They are being ransacked. They will grow the female population in Afghanistan. I don't care what the Taliban says. The best way to predict future behavior, you know what it is? Look at past behavior. It's not a pretty sight. And there's a reason why everyone's trying to get out of Afghanistan. And meanwhile, Joe Biden, sitting at the conference table by himself at Camp David, saying, woe is me. Kamala Harris with her mask on. I wonder if she keeps that mask on when the camera's not going. Definitely not. Kamala Harris, Vietnam, I'm going to Vietnam, trying to distance herself. The left just can't control themselves about, they know they have no excuse here. Even the left media is challenging the stupidity, and they can only be described as the stupidity of this administration. This is who the Biden voter voted for. This is who the Kamala supporter voted for. This is all you Bernie and Elizabeth Warren and AOC, all you who support those people, this is what they represent. And now the intelligent, smart, experienced people have got to hurry in and try to fix what could be the biggest tragedy in American political history. And meanwhile, we have a bumbling, stumbling corpse. Weekend at Biden's. A stumbling, bumbling corpse who walks up to a teleprompter, reads what's on it, turns around, does all he can to avoid falling flat on his face, and shuffles. Because if you'll see, he doesn't walk, he shuffles. He shuffles his way across the platform to make sure he doesn't fall. He's not allowed to take questions because they know he can't answer them, because he has no clue. People, look at your president. Watch him on television. Watch. It's a disaster. The entire world understands that this country is led by a total incompetent, a man who is senile, a man who is not capable of leading nothing. He can't even lead himself around. Imagine leading a country. And then we have a totally unqualified person on his right hand who's saying, look at me, I'm a woman of color. That's all she can say, because there's nothing else there. People, we are in a mess. Just think how much better you would feel right now. First of all, none of this would have happened under Trump. None of this would have happened. Okay? People feared Donald Trump. They knew he did not play games, that he would have put his foot down. They know this guy doesn't put his foot down. The only time he puts his foot down is when the left tells him, stomp your foot, jump up and down, because he is a total puppet. We are in a mess, and this is when you need leadership more than ever. This is when you need someone like a Donald Trump. This is when you need experience. This is when you need expertise. This is not when you need a certain race, a certain religion, a certain gender. None of that matters at this point. We need the best to lead us. We don't have them in place. because every time you try to push forward the best option, the resistance is racism, homophobia, xenophobe, whatever they want to call, that's what they hide behind, to allow less than the best to take positions of authority. That's where we're at now. We have an administration that, for the most part, not all of it, is housed by people who would have never gotten their positions if it was merit-based. They are there because of sex, race, religion, gender, political view, not anything else. And that's many of them. We're in a mess. You better make sure in 2022 you don't vote to continue this mess. This has got to be fixed. And the only way it can be fixed is clean house with conservative views. The right has got as many problems as anyone else. That's why you have to do your homework and be diligent as to who you vote for, because there's as much trash on the conservative right as there is on the left. But there are good choices. And like I've said before, if you look at Comey Barrett in the Supreme Court, you will see what voting for a true, unbiased, fair conservative does. She has voted against Trump best interest on several occasions. Why? Because she takes her job seriously and she is there to do the job, and she represents the American people. Nancy Pelosi does not represent the American people. AOC does not represent the American people. Bernie Sanders does not represent the American people. Kamala Harris doesn't represent anyone. Joe Biden doesn't know he's alive. We need to address this before it's too late. Thank you.